Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. An amazing technique that Goddard shares with us that I think kind of burns through some of the doubt. It burns through some of those places where maybe we have blockages, where we think it's going to be a hard time. And it's really coming out of the 11th chapter, Interference, in the book, The Power of Awareness. Very, very good stuff. Let's get into it. I think it's just an amazing way. And just to kind of preface it, he calls it the ideal. And I want that to sink in a little bit, because if you think about it, no matter what the situation is, no matter where you are in the scope of manifesting something, you should be able to imagine an ideal situation, the ideal way that this could play out to where you're with your specific person or you're making more money. Maybe it's not going from $1,000 a month to instantly $10,000 a month. It can. But maybe it's going from $1,000 a month to $3,000, $4,000 a month, and then a little bit later down the road, you end up hitting $8,000, $9,000, right? Like, it can progress. So if there's an ideal where you have blockages, how can I do this? I don't think it's possible. I don't know. How could I? This is one of those things where it's like, whoa. Let's get all that out of the way for a second. What is it you're trying to accomplish? XYZ. Okay. What's the ideal situation where that happens? Well, this is a situation where that can happen. Bam! All right, stop all the other stuff. No! Stay there with me. Stay on that ideal, and you shall find your dreams. So, as Goddard starts, you are free to choose the concept you will accept of yourself. Therefore, you possess the power of intervention, the power which enables you to alter the course of your future. The process of rising from your present concept to a higher concept of yourself is the means of all true progress. The higher concept is waiting for you to incarnate it into the world of experience. So he's talking about the concepts of ourselves are what create what's around us. I think he's pretty clear about that throughout this whole book. We're in chapter 11, right? He's been pretty consistent. And we have the power to change that, is what he's saying. We have a power to imagine a larger version of ourselves. We have the power to look at ourselves where we're at right now, because where we are right now is pretty much what we've attracted to ourselves at this moment. And if we're trying to use law of attraction to create more in our lives, then we need to be more in our lives. So here's a chance to improve, to expand, to become a larger version, to hold a higher vision of a life for ourselves. For ourselves, our loved ones, all the people around us, but certainly that can encompass our lives as well. So Goddard's extremely helpful about talking about this. Now, he does use one word that I think is cool, and I wanted to spend a moment on. He says, you are free to choose the concept you will accept of yourself. Therefore, you possess the power of intervention, the power which enables you to alter the course of your future. I like the word intervention. I like the way he uses it. And really, to me, the one thing that truly kind of sparks is self-love, right? We have the ability to look at our situation, and through love of ourselves, and through love of our lives, and through love of what we're here to experience and enjoy and share with others, we're able to intervene with our current reality, current consciousness, and we're able to grow it. We're able to expand it. We're able to see something larger. One thing, and I'm just going to use this as a quick example, we'll get right back to it, but one of the things that teaches people that there's more to, like, whether you're right or wrong, good or bad, up or down, we call it unconditional love, right? You love something so much, even if it does something wrong, you still love it, right? So children are a great example. For those of us that haven't had children yet, pets actually are a wonderful stomping ground or area to get into there, way to get into that. Certainly relationships, love life relationships, we'll get into that. But, for a lot of us, that first concept of unconditional love is when that dog poops on your carpet. You're just like, right? And you clean it up. It's part of it. It's part of training. It's part of it growing. It feels bad. You can tell it does this little down face like, I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. That's part of it. So it is beautiful how all of these aspects play out in our lives. All right, so to continue with Goddard. Now unto him that is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that worketh in us, unto him be glory. Let me say that again, because the biblical stuff he uses, especially when it's, I think, a lot of the Old Testament stuff. Now unto him that is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that worketh in us, unto him be glory. Well, he fortunately explains it to us a little bit. Him that is able to do more than you can ask or think is your imagination, and the power that worketh in us is your attention. Understanding imagination to be him that is able to do all that you ask, and attention to be the power by which you create your world, you can now build your ideal world. Imagine yourself to be the ideal you dream of and desire. Remain attentive to this imagined state, and as fast as you completely feel that you are already this ideal, it will manifest itself as reality in your world. One of the keys here is that there's two real things at work that he's really trying to point out to us. And he closes this out for us here shortly, so please come with me. But the imagination, right? You're able to do or think. Your imagination is how you kind of work, as he says, but your imagination is kind of how you send out what you want created. And your attention to it is sort of like the power of it, right? It's sort of like what gives you the emotion that he talks about. But it's the attention to it, and it's the imagination of how we create, how we set up our ideal, to borrow the term, just to keep it fresh in your mind. It's our ability to imagine whatever it is, the creativity of imagining, and then to hold your attention on that image, on that living in the end, on that experience of this imagined thing that's not real yet, imagined person, imagined place, imagined thing, object. So you imagine it, you get it clear, and by holding your attention on that, you get yourself to where you're feeling the feelings of the wish fulfilled. Once you've done that, boom, done. Off to the races you go. You've already got it completed. So that's where he finishes up with it, is remain attentive to this imagined state, and as fast as you completely feel that you are already this ideal, it will manifest itself as reality in your world. The imagined experience of creating an arbitrary experience and then being attentive to it to such a point that you feel it, it now starts to take on that realness, and that's where the magic comes in, if you will. That's when the spiritual push comes out of our body, and is when we feel, and when we're really in that place where we feel the realness of it. It's like stepping through a dimensional doorway almost, right? Like you're looking at a mirror, and you can see your imagined thing on the other side of the mirror, right? Like a looking glass, right? Or that makes me think of the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. But whatever, you got a mirror, and you're looking through it, and it's the ability to be able to step into it, right? And the mirror, it's all wiggly, and you kind of step through it, and you're like, oh my God, I just stepped into my dream. That's what you're doing when you're feeling it and imagining it. You're stepping into that mirror. You're stepping into that dream. And I use mirror instead of window because it's a reflection of us. Really, right? So it's reflecting us, even though it's maybe showing us our dream right now. And we're stepping into it, feeling it, and being it for a second, and then stepping back into our real lives. And then from there, like I've said earlier, we create like a bridge almost from it to us, consciously, right? And that's what does the creation. So Goddard continues, of course. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. The mystery hid from the ages, Christ in you, the hope of glory. Let me say it again, even though he's going to read it one more time back to us, but these are so tough. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. The mystery hid from the ages, Christ in you, the hope of glory. All right, so what he says then, the he in the first of these quotations is your imagination. So he was in the world, and the world was made by him. He is the first of these quotations is your imagination. As previously explained, there is only one substance. There's one substance. This substance is consciousness. Nothing else exists. Consciousness is everything. Go with me for a second. This is Goddard talking, but I'm just helping. Consciousness is everything. It's the big bubble. It's the big circle. All right? And then we're going to subdivide that down a little bit, right? So consciousness is everything. The he in the first of these quotations is your imagination. As previously explained, there is only one substance. This substance is consciousness. It is your imagination which forms this substance into concepts, which concepts are then manifested as conditions, circumstances, and physical objects. Thus, imagination made your world. This supreme truth, with but a few exceptions, man is not conscious of. Thus, imagination made your world. This supreme truth, with but a few exceptions, man is not conscious of. One, what is he saying about a few exceptions, by the way? Okay, just throwing that out there. I don't know, just throwing it out there. A lot of people like throw Goddard at my face. He's got all sorts of crazy quotes. There's a lot of stuff. So you got to take a lot of Goddard in and really kind of like look at it. But this is a very powerful part he talks about. Substance equals consciousness. Okay, which is basically your I am. Okay, everything that is your I am, right? Everything's us pushed out. They say it's your I am, we're all one, whatever. It's your I am, your consciousness. Okay, imagination forms substance into concepts. Now, concepts, in my mind, like ideas, right? Like seeing your person together with you and them, or seeing this new job. That's a concept. It's a construct. It's an idea of something. So what you're doing is you're taking your substance, your consciousness, and you're focusing it in such a way that it starts to imagine ideas, concepts, situations, images. So your consciousness, the I am part, goes, okay, I want to imagine something. And imagining starts to happen. This creates concepts. Concepts are then manifested as conditions, circumstances, and objects. What that means is concepts, your thoughts, your idea, your imaginal scene, becomes real through either smaller little pieces, events, concepts, or conditions. Like things happen in our lives because of how we're thinking of these things. So substance equals consciousness. Imagination forms substance into concepts, and then concepts become physical reality. So I am thinks of it, creates it, and moves on with it. The mystery, Christ in you, referred to in the second quotation, is your imagination by which your world is molded. The hope of glory is your awareness of the ability to rise perpetually to higher levels. Christ is not to be found in history nor in external forms. You find Christ only when you become aware of the fact that your imagination is the only redemptive power. When this is discovered, the towers of dogma will have been heard, the trumpets of truth, and like the walls of Jericho, crumble to dust. The key to this entire chapter is right here in this last part. You find Christ only when you become aware of the fact that your imagination is the only redemptive power. Redemption to me seems like saving, right? That's what comes to mind when I think of redemption or redemptive. It is the saving component. The only component that we can save ourselves with. The Christ component in us from the religious standpoint, the part that saves us, is that awareness of your imagination. And that your imagination, sometimes when left uncontrolled, unchecked, unfocused, runs amok, imagines all sorts of crazy things, all sorts of horrific things, imagines different scenarios, different conversations, it imagines different situations, circumstances, and anything else. If there are any woes in our life, if there are any things in our life that aren't going quite right, that seem a little the way we change that is paying attention to what we're imagining, but more importantly, imagine what it is that you want. Imagine the ideal. What is your ideal? What is the thing that's going to turn this all around for you? What is it that you've got a hang up on? They didn't forgive you. You're not smart enough for the job. Maybe you're not educated enough. It says it requires, 4 years of experiences or 2 years of education. I don't know, something crazy. And you're like, I'm not sure I've got that. Like, what is your ideal? Well, the ideal in that case, right? I don't necessarily have enough experience. Is like, go for it anyway. I share what I do know, and who knows, maybe I'm the right fit. Maybe things haven't quite filled out on their side yet. Maybe I'm just the right personal candidate, and they look at me and they're like, nah, you can learn what you don't know. You seem like you're the right kind of fit for us. So that's your ideal. You don't look at the block. You don't look at the fact, I don't have enough experience. I don't have enough education. Meh. That's not what you look at. What's the ideal? What is the situation? You've got a specific person you're after and they need to forgive you because you've done something wrong, or there's a specific person that's never met you. Maybe they're famous. I keep getting this question a lot, oddly. There's a lot of people apparently that are interested in going after famous people. So the ideal is that you can bump into these people. And I've talked about it before. The odds are, and we've talked a lot about this, and I'm not trying to put doubt, I'm just saying, play the numbers frequently. Odds are a super famous person is probably not going to come to your house. They might. They might be like Ed McMahon and show up with a giant check. That's very possible. I don't think it's Ed McMahon anymore. I don't know who the heck it is, but famous people come into your door, giant check, maybe. It could happen. But statistically speaking, what you have a better chance of in the ideal situation, because it might be hard to imagine, some famous person coming right to your door. The ideal might be that maybe you show up to some sort of Hollywood function or some sort of Bollywood function or whatever, I don't know. Some sort of place where this famous person might show up. You hang out at maybe a show, try to get the backstage. Who knows? You might manifest a friend that's like, hey, I got backstage passes to go see whatever band you're into that happens to be the famous for whatever. The ideal situation is you meet them, that you get face to face with them, that you shake their hand, you get to hug them, whatever. You get to work with them, whatever. It doesn't matter. What is your ideal? A lot of the people that are going after famous people, for example, is that, well, they're famous. What are the chances that I could meet them? That's what everyone says. Well, what is your ideal? The ideal would be to meet them in person, maybe at some sort of Hollywood show, maybe at a restaurant. Who knows? That's where you let your imagination kind of have fun with it. If you've got something that's blocking you that you can't think, how could I get around this? Let your imagination have a little stab at it. See what sort of crazy stuff you can come up with. I'm not saying you're trying to necessarily manifest the middle, but what I am saying is when we're having difficulties believing that something is possible, looking at the ideal, looking at, this could happen. These things could happen. And usually you'll find that life will surprise you with how it manifests your creation. It oftentimes shows up in slightly interesting ways. Maybe a little different than what we thought, but certainly shows up in very profound, awesome, and amazing ways. Stand radio style.